This is how it works.
There we go. Yeah, there it gets it. Isolated terpenes, right? And this is what is going to be part of the chemical composition of cannabis. It's like an alien world, isn't it? Super cool. I never get sick of seeing it, to be honest. It's always cool. There are folks that are sensitive to limonene. There are folks that are sensitive to certain.
Welcome, Mr. Paul. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
It's exciting. I mean, we did this setup thinking that we'll have guests like you from different fields and different line of work, and just to contextualize for the audience what you do, how you do it differently than others, please.
Sure. Yeah. I'm in sales and marketing. Lowlands Education is my company. I started it in 2020. Following a layoff, which most of us in the cannabis industry are getting kind of used to. And between kind of when I originally got into cannabis, it was on the retail side of things. So I opened Manitoba's first independent cannabis retailer, which was very cool here in Winnipeg, which is Flint and Embers on Portage Avenue.
Oh, okay.
So I was lucky enough to be involved with helping out those folks open up and work on the original security and the licensing and all the things that kind of go into getting your license, and then of course opening. So you gotta, just like you pick all your products and train your staff and do all that. So I was lucky enough to be involved there, but COVID hit, and the kind of larger role that I was going to do for them compressed into, 3 stores became 1, and eventually I kind of...
So they had 3 stores to begin with?
That was the plan. There was going to be 3 stores, but then COVID hit, and it really kind of put a damper on that, right? The growth and the boom that kind of was expected from cannabis, and this was wave 2, like tier 2 licensing, right? So year 1, of course, was just independents, the corporates, and we just had 6 of them, I believe it was. So there was 6 chains in year 1, and there was only flour, right? So there was no concentrates yet, no edibles, nothing, just flour.
And this is back in 2020.
That would have been 2019, yeah, kind of when it was first starting there. There were a few reps in the city already, and I was doing some purchasing, so I got to kind of meet them, and that was my introduction to the kind of the rep side of things. So. But after that layoff, I ended up becoming an actual sales rep, and I took a job with Green Hedge, which was no longer around, but was a very similar model to what I do, but on a national scale. So I spent a year and a half doing Manitoba and Saskatchewan back in 2020, 2021, and I got to tour around and drive all around and meet everybody, and it was great. It was also hard on the road a lot, but it was great to get to kind of meet everybody. But eventually that led to a layoff also.
Why is it becoming a trend in this industry where layoffs are becoming more and more common now?
I think that, there was the estimation of what the business might look like. There was our idea of what the cannabis industry would be, and then there's what the cannabis industry actually is. Yeah. And, if you pay attention to, say you're out of the industry and you're looking at it from an outside perspective you're probably just watching, stock prices. In which case, it doesn't look very good. You're not going to want to invest based on that, right? But then once you kind of get inside, you get to see a lot more of it, and how the provinces shape things, and how the retailers shape things, and the customers shape things, and how that kind of all comes together.
Boom, influx, and then we're stagnating now.
There was, kind of a large amount of stores that were opening all at the same time, right? So now your piece of the pie continues to get smaller. And that's still what we're kind of seeing, right? The rate in which new customers are coming to stores is much lower than the rate of stores opening. So
and it's spreading thin. The customers are spreading thin across all the stores. And eventually, I don't know how this will play out, but I think about it a lot.
Yeah.
Tell me more about Lowlands.
I got a little off track there. So after the second layoff, I kind of decided to just take things a little bit more into my own hands. So I kind of went out and did the job that I did with Green Hedge, and combined, the retail knowledge that I had from Flint and Embers and my previous experience before cannabis retail, and that kind of led to doing some education at the beginning. I started selling an education program that I had written, and I started going in and working with teams and working as a consultant also. So kind of saying, this is what I think you should bring in on your first order. This is what you can expect in terms of percentages to go into each category of sales, and just give them a general understanding of what was going on. But there's not a ton of money out there for education. You know, most stores don't have an extra budget of a few $1,000s to be throwing. You know, they can barely do marketing for the most part. So bringing in outside help. There were definitely some folks that I did work with and had a bunch of great accounts that I was working with on and off. But ultimately, I kind of had to transition into the rep side of things. So that's where we are now, and that's mainly what I do, which is third-party sales and marketing. So I will sign a licensed producer to my portfolio, and then I'm their on-the-ground rep. I'm their face, right? I'm the person that you can
Face
call
for the company and then present their brand to the retailers.
You got it.
That's very interesting. You got some stuff here. Do you want to dive it right now? Or
Yeah,
later?
I mean, sure. It's kind of stuff I bring around with me when I'm doing my rep thing. You know, I like to be very education forward with the products that I'm selling.
That's very cool thing about you, because I've met a lot of reps being at retail end.
Yeah.
Nobody pays this much deep dive to any of the products as you do. Because even if you bring hash, sizzle hash or whatnot, you'll make sure I know what I'm selling, which is very cool. And okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks. The education piece has always been important to me. I think that when I first kind of got into cannabis, I had been smoking, but we didn't have the science that we have now. We didn't know what we know now. So, it was kind of something that I enjoyed. And Green Hedge, where I worked, had a lot of focus on education. Mm-hmm. And there was more of it, I think, in the beginning. If you remember Tokyo Smoke in year one, there was a lot of kind of education going on in the store, and they had little couch areas where you could roll joints, and they had all this kind of engagement pieces that ultimately didn't end up lasting, right? And have kind of gone away. And I think we'll slowly start seeing a resurgence there. Education is kind of starting to come back. We're starting to see a little bit of push against trends. So like lower THC stuff is starting to make a bit of a comeback, right? So we'll start to see, the 23 to 26% start doing a little bit better. It's because the THC race is completely out of control, right? Like at a point, and I'm just jumping from topic to topic here. But
that's fine. I mean, this is perfect. The other day I saw this milled flower. Guess the percentage. Take a guess. 35%.
35. Yeah. Okay.
I'm like, how is that even possible?
It's not. I'll just say it's not. There's and the plant historically, right, has only been like 21 to 24%.
And 25 was crazy number.
Crazy number. So now we're, obviously it's driven by the customer's desire for larger numbers. And in my opinion, that's based on miseducation, right? There's really not enough education around cannabis to understand what is a marker of quality, what is a marker of enjoyment, and then there's kind of the high, which is a part of it, of course, but it's not the only part of it. And that high can be shaped, it can be changed, it can feel different ways.
Kinds of high too. It's easy for them to just compare numbers, right?
Yeah.
23, 27. 27 will be better than 23, regardless of how good the quality of 23% cannabis is. And
it becomes numbers on a page, absolutely.
It's quantitative, right? It's measurable. So.
It is, but quality isn't a number that you can put on that. And if we were, say, doing a rating system where now you would like try this product and you would have the price and it's cannabinoid content and it's terpene content, but then you'd have your own rating there or something. Now, that's not something you need to do, but if that was the case, then we could say this is our measurable quality amount. Whereas right now, our measurable quality amount are these numbers, right?
Yeah.
Now, how are we achieving all of a sudden 36% where we never did before? I mean, there's a few ways.
I can tell you why.
Yeah,
You can tell me why too,
there's a few ways, right? One, plant growth accelerators, right? So from the hop, genetically, you can start enhancing plants to produce more of one thing than another. So that is a way you can do it. Another way would be straining the plant. So if you were to put
what's that?
with light, so photosensitivity is generally how that plant is going to shift, right? Between vegetative and flower states, you're going to use different amounts of light for each stage, lights and dark. But by stressing the plant out with light, I think you can drive.
24/7?
Pardon?
24/7 light?
No, it wouldn't be that much because it needs dark to do it. And to be perfectly honest, I don't know the exact ratio of light to dark to achieve that, but I do know you can stress the plant out with light or starving it from, and that will drive your cannabinoids up a little bit, and you get a little bit extra out of that.
Resulting in higher THC numbers.
Yeah, and if a grower hears me say that and I'm wrong, my apologies. And then you have your COAs. So in our legal industry, right, we need to grow, we need to bucket, shuck it, you cure it, you package it, but then it needs to be tested. Sorry, before packaging. Testing. And you get your certificate of authenticity, right? The testing from the lab. But if I have a lab company and you have a lab company and we're competing, right? And a person's coming to me and they're saying, well...
That's where it gets murky, eh?
Right. So maybe you add a number or two to yours and then you start getting more customers than me. And this isn't... this, I guess, is a comment on capitalism more than anything, but it's you need to drive your business. So how do you do that? If every lab kicks out the same number, how do you get a competitive edge? So now we're talking about inflated numbers. Now we're talking about things that don't make sense. And then there's also the tricky stuff. So I've heard lovely stories about people like injecting distillate into a bud and then sending it to a lab to try to get it tested because the distillate would obviously raise but ridiculous,
But
like injected with a needle.
They're just packing regular cannabis.
Yeah, and then just injecting it with a concentrate to try to fool the test, right?
Yeah.
You also see things like COA stitching. I'm just giving away all the industry secrets now. And sometimes not done very well.
What is
You
COA?
copy and pasted. The COA would be the certificate that you get when you test your product. So
Okay.
it would
Certificate of authenticity.
yeah, and you would get your cannabinoid content, your terpene content. They also, Health Canada has a
Pest,
parts per million, for pesticides, heavy
Or
metals, and
mold and whatnot.
you got it. So there's that kind of testing. So that's what the COA is, right? And a lab, like locally, Biosigin labs right here in Winnipeg offer that kind of testing. There's several labs throughout the country that do that. But yeah, if you ever need product tested legally, you can do that here in the city.
And if I don't know how well versed you are, maybe you can answer some of it. If someone today decides to open a lab, can he start with small lab or does it have to be full-fledged?
That is not something I'm probably super well qualified to answer. That's not my side of things. And I would assume from what I've seen of the tours of those labs, there are several machines that do that, to my very crude, explanation of it, you kind of take a sample and you load it into a sock and you feed that sock up into a machine and they flood that with a liquid to kind of start separating things.
Yeah.
And then from there, it can be separated. You can separate each cannabinoid. You can separate the terpenes. Like there's ways to kind of chemically separate things. And that's how you end up with isolates, right? Of course.
Interesting. I wonder if these facilities get audited all the time. The CRA comes in, checks for the excise, and Health Canada would come in to make sure all the GMPs and are taken care of. Why don't they visit these labs where they are tweaking up the number a bit, allegedly?
Allegedly, right?
Yeah.
And that's a great question. Enforcement is kind of a tricky thing here. We have Health Canada that oversees a portion of our business, but there's no Health Canada authority. There's no regulation. They, as far as I know, they don't have regulators coming around, inspectors coming around. Now the LGCA obviously does, and they're kind of keeping an eye on licensing in that way here locally.
But oversight on labs as such.
And you know what? I'm sure that the folks that own the labs would say that they have a bunch of accreditation that they need to
100%.
do, and I'm sure they have lots of it. But I don't specifically know what it would be. No. But yeah, there's one machine that can kind of read what's in the bud, right? So pull all that information, and then there's ones to separate them and do all that kind of fun stuff. It's a little above my head, to be honest.
Let's get into this fun stuff. I'm very curious about this.
Yeah, so when I'm out repping, I kind of like to talk about the education thing like we were saying. So if we're going to look at, say, this guy, then we want to start talking about trichomes, talking about the shape of the bud, the color, its moisture content. These are the things that are kind of determine quality, right?
Okay.
So it's not necessarily its THC number and its price. We need those to be aligned for the marketing sides of things, for products to move. But this is a plant. I mean, it doesn't care about those things, right? It cares about getting light and air and nutrient. So By having the microscope on top here, the magnifying glass, we're able to kind of dive in and look at the trichomes. And I also have a microscope that I use in market that allows us to really, really zoom in on them and start looking at the trichomes and growers are going to use that to see, is the plant ready? So when you're kind of zoomed in, and I unfortunately don't have a picture with me, but if you see them really zoomed in, they look like mushrooms, yeah?
There's
and then
crystals too. And
so that's the trichome head. They're on a stalk, and all the chemicals
See if
are
we can find a zoomed in picture of plant.
macro trichome should get you.
Trichomes.
Yeah,
That'll be nice, yeah.
and you're kind of looking for the head to be clear or murky or amber, and that's all kind of giving signals about maturity of the plant. So if I'm looking at something to see if it's quality, that's something I will check. I'll put it under a loop. I'll look right at the trichome, and I'll see, are the majority of these murky or white, milky, because that's kind of what we're looking for, right? That is kind of peak maturity within that trichome. Now it's a plant, of course, so it doesn't develop perfectly even as a cross, so you will see some amber, you will see some clear, but you're looking for majority.
Is it true that the bottom of the plant is high THC? Or the top of the plant, do you know?
So typically what you're going to do, same with tomatoes, is you're going to trim the bottom and send everything up to the top. So your top cola, that big old nug right at the top, is generally, yeah, there we go.
So the third from the top. Yeah.
There we go. So yeah, those are the glands
That's
that
what
are
it
going to
looks
hold
like,
all of it, your plant material. So once we zoom all the way in on something like this, that's what we're seeing. And up in the top there is
This
kind
looks
of
like a whole different world, like a
right. It's like an alien world, isn't it? Super cool. I never get sick of seeing it, to be honest. It's
Yeah,
always
it's very
cool. I
fascinating.
always enjoy it, and yeah. So and you see this show up in all sorts of plants, right? You see it
Can
in
we scroll down?
you see it in predatory plants as well. They'll use those glands, right? So a
stick.
bug will land,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
they'll close in on it, and
Venus flytraps, and
they'll use that same kind of
I wanted
excretion.
to have that plant as a kid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a Venus flytrap.
to see that trap in and all
They're
that.
cool, hey? Do you know, I learned a couple of years back how exactly they work. So on each side of a Venus flytrap, there's 3 hairs, 3 little sticky hairs out.
Yeah.
And if you trick one of those hairs,
then
a timer starts.
Yeah.
And if you hit a
Don't
second
escape.
one within
Yeah.
5 seconds, then it closes. And if not, it won't.
It'll be a cool video.
So it
to
has
watch.
it has a very like
Puneet, do
cool
you know about
timer.
This plant? It's called Venus flytrap. A YouTube video of so this plant eats bugs. If we can find it.
I bought one once from, I think, like Safeway.
Yeah?
They had them, right? They had them at the plant department at Safeway. And I brought one home hoping that it would eat the fruit
All the
flies.
fruit flies, yeah.
It did not.
Didn't work?
No, it
I
didn't
think
work.
it's fruit flies too small.
Yeah.
It can escape or whatnot.
Yeah, they're too small, absolutely. So it's they'd eat flies, obviously, but yeah, it didn't
It's
work
a
for that
cool
purpose. But
plant.
it was cool, right?
But nobody
Predatory
thinks
plants are
about
neat.
plants eating bugs or whatnot.
Yeah. And the pitcher plants too, right? They fall in
yeah.
and then they're like, digested down in there. It's crazy.
So you can find a video. Yeah.
Very cool.
Let's neighbors are Venus flytrap
Oh, boy.
dinner. He likes ants. Let's feed him some tacos. Ants and cheese.
What? No, not this.
This video is crazy as shit.
She's feeding tacos too. Yeah, that's a better one. So this is how it works.
There we go. Yeah, there it gets it.
Yeah, they like big bugs or whatnot. Oh boy.
Yeah.
And this is nature, my friend. This is crazy.
Yeah.
This looks like alien.
It does, hey? Yeah, it's really cool. It's hard to see the little hairs, but there's 3 of them on each side. So we probably would have dinged one there, and then he's got to hit another one to get it to close.
And it's sticky too, right?
Yeah, they excrete, and it's like
There we go.
it's like sugary. So I think it
Yeah.
acts as like an attract, and that's like
That's-
all plants, right? So like terpenes, great segue. So terpenes, these are isolated terpenes, right? And this is what is going to be part of the chemical composition of cannabis. So once you're in those trichomes, you have your cannabinoids, your terpenes, your alkynes, your esters, got all these lovely things, but terps are in there. So these are going to provide some of the smells. They're going to provide effect as well, so entourage effect. They're going to work all together. Now, you would rarely smell an isolated terp, right? When you're smelling weed, because you're getting kind of everything together. But this is kind of a cool opportunity to like go in there. So,
It's there if you want to smell it.
like
This
myrcene
is
as an
eucalyptol. So these
Yeah,
are
so
all
this is-
natural compounds happening in the.
totally. These are
Nature, yeah.
botanically derived terps that I purchased, and Yeah, like this is Myrcene, which is the most common
Common one.
occurring. Yeah, absolutely. We also have D-limonene.
When you smell them individually, it's different than smelling the whole plant.
Yeah, right. So here's Linalool. That's that lavender kind of
This
florally
is familiar.
smell.
This,
Yeah.
I've seen this one.
And then limonene's the last one coming through. You'll recognize that as well because that's that lemon, right? That's that a lot.
So
You find a
there's-
lot in sativas and those kind of.
Limonene, Linalool, these are the common Myrcene I've seen a few
Yeah.
times.
Caryophyllene. Yeah,
Oh,
for sure.
This is a good one. And how do they-
Valencine is how you get that orange smell. So
Tangy, Tropicana
yeah.
tangies.
yeah.
Interesting. I like
And you know, for us, they create the effect and they create the smell, part of it at least. And but for the plant, what is it doing? Right? So why do they exist? So for the plant, it's either to attract a mate or to repel a predator. So you're kind
it's
of
a defense
you're looking
mechanism.
to either replicate your genes or eat something, right? Or stop from being eaten, depending on the situation. But
That's
you
right.
know, so when you look at cannabis specifically, though, cannabis is actually not. It's replicated by wind. So it's not bees, it's not pollinators that are carrying genetics from plant to plant to spread the
Yeah.
cannabis seed. That's done by wind. So therefore, terpenes don't serve that function, and that means that they're there to repel predators. So predators don't come and eat their plant. That's the function in the plant, from my understanding, from the article I read at least. So yeah, that's why terpenes exist in nature.
No, that makes sense. I
Yeah.
mean, I've heard mango as a fruit. I had a guest who told me mango does have mycene in it, and pretty much all the compounds, all the plants you'll see, they have some sort of terpenes protecting them or either helping them attract bees to pollinate or whatnot.
Yeah, which is super cool.
Fascinating, yeah.
Yeah.
And does it help in some sort for people to get different sorts of high? Because every now and then there will be a customer that comes in, shows up asking what kind of terpenes, and they just care about the percentage again. But,
Yeah, and I mean, hey, terps didn't get inflated, so their percentages probably are relatively real. But I mean, every single person's endocannabinoid system is unique. It's very, very difficult to say like this is good for you, right? Pinene, as an example, is a bronchulator, so it will increase your ability to breathe. It will relax your bronchial tubes. Pinene. So that's great, right? So like, you know, you'll hear people say they're in a pine forest, pinene, there it is. You know, so that's great. But will that work for every single person? Unlikely. You know, there are folks that are sensitive to limonene. There are folks that are sensitive to certain types of terpenes. I've heard of terpene allergies as well, where folks just can't do it, right? So, you know.
do they have any healing properties individually or no?
I think therapeutic, yeah, they'll be therapeutic. And it's all about kind of entourage effect, which is going to be everything working together on your endocannabinoid system, right? So you're engaging CB1 and CB2 receptors inside your central nervous system. There's also a bunch of other ones like TRVP1 and 2, which are other receptors that cannabinoids interact with. So you can go pretty deep with it. I'm you know, probably just at the surface myself. There's just always more to know. You know, it never ends.
There's always more to know. You're true. But you brought a very cool point earlier that not all terpenes will work well with everyone. There's some that will work for you, some might work for me, and the ones that work for me might not work for you. So it's very subjective.
And I think that's why people have favorite strains. You know, I think that, and strain is actually a bit of a misnomer. It's not really like strains are used to describe bacteria and mold. So technically we would say chemovar. So chemovar.
That's true?
Chemovar and cultivar. Okay, so cultivar is the physical characteristics of a plant. So when you look at a sativa dominant plant or you look at an indica leaning plant, you can see, you know, is it tall and wiry? Is it short and stubby, right? Those are the differences. So that is your cultivar. But each one is going to have its own unique chemical footprint, and that is the chemovar. So those are the correct terms that we don't really use. I don't know where strain came along at some point. You know, it just was kind of used and stuck. But So yeah, so that
I think strains were named for the dumb people like us, so that it's easier for us to understand. Oh, what am I smoking and whatnot?
right?
So
But then you start get groupings. So now you kind of like, here's your cushes, right? And they're gonna have a similar smell, and they're likely gonna be grown in a similar place because that's what would produce it, right? And that would be climate and the air and the oxygen, and oxygen is
matters,
air,
yeah.
but yeah, the water.
altitude and all whatnot. So yeah.
Yeah, so it really kind of is different for everybody. And then once you take that plant that was grown in all these different circumstances and all these different places, and then put it into your unique system, who knows what's going to come out?
That's true.
So we have an idea, but some folks CBN makes them up, and
Yeah.
CBG puts them down, which is kind of the opposite of what you typically see, right?
If you can quickly, Paul, tell the people and me as well the difference between CBG and how CBN is differentiated.
Yeah, I mean, cannabinoids are an interesting thing. We're just starting to kind of figure them out. Typically, you see CBG as more of an uplifting effect, and you'll typically see it paired with sativa. So if you're going to have a CBG encrusted joint, as an example, like something like the Jubilee CBG,
Okay.
Keef dipped full spectrum infused joint, which is a hell of a lot of words to say. You're going to find something like a Heaven's Fruit sativa, and then coated in
Ladies and
CBG
gentlemen, this
Keef.
is only for education
Educational
purposes.
purposes only. Yes, that's right. And then
This is coated with CBG, you say?
yeah, so it's CBG Keef, coated onto the joint, which is infused with full spectrum, and then flowers. So this will create a uplifting type of effect. The combination of the Heaven's Fruit, a sativa leaning,
So will it be right to say one of the reps told me back in the day, but not back in the day, a year ago or something, that CBG makes you more giggly, CBN will put you to sleep. It's a nighttime.
I think CBN has some relaxing qualities. To be precise, I mean, CBD and CBN, anything that relaxes you doesn't put you to sleep. It calms your body and mind so that you can sleep.
And the consequence of that is you can't sleep.
You can sleep, right? So
But
there's
it won't put you to sleep. Okay.
So there's this kind of like idea that CBD puts you to sleep, but no, it calms your nervous system so you can sleep. So
it allows,
and
it
I guess
facilitates. Yeah. Okay.
right, for sure. So, but yeah, different folks respond differently, but it's really a bit of trial and error, and that's true of all medicine. I think even looking at like Western prescription medicine, doctors say, let's try this for a few weeks and then we'll see what happens. And if we need to adjust, I'll see you back in a few weeks. Like, this is medicine, right?
Yeah.
So we can, the idea of going out and trying things. Now, we live primarily on the recreational side of that, right? So we don't really think about medicine in that way.
That's
now,
true.
are our recreational customers using weed for medicinal purposes? Yes. Whether they realize it or not, I mean, if they're using it to decompress after work, if they're using it to help to go to sleep, if they're using it to just navigate how fucked up life can be, that's a medical piece, right? It's not just getting stoned and giggling at a movie, which is also great, but that's maybe less medicinal on that side, but
And
laughter is a good medicine, so maybe
minds are
it's still
complex, right?
yeah.
So someone's dealing with XYZ and going through some stress, pain, trauma, whatnot. Cannabis in various ways can help tremendously, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I've seen where people can overuse it to stay out of one reality and stick to this other reality, in which case it can be a little bit
Totally.
counterintuitive, I'd say.
Yeah, it's all about how you use it. It's intention, right?
Yeah.
And you can abuse almost anything if you try hard enough. But yeah, I mean, I think that cannabis has been, I mean, if I'm being really honest, it's been both for me. I think I've used it to hide. I think I've used it to inspire and create. I think I've used it in many settings, and I've kind of figured out what works for me a little bit more and what doesn't, right? I think everybody's got to kind of strike their own balance with cannabis in their life.
100%.
And
yeah.
it goes a little high at times, I'll admit that. It's a battle.
Yeah, I mean, during my college years, I've smoked my fair share, and now that I've mellowed down completely, it's been 2 years, 3 years, haven't touched it, or once in a blue moon, maybe if I'm going out camping. So yeah, there is a peak, and then how much you need it in your life. 100%.
Yeah. I enjoy it quite a bit. I mean, I'm pretty actively using the plant and in different ways, lots of different ways. Topicals is another kind of great way to do it. This is a Jubilee extra strength CBD body butter, which is 1,000 milligrams of CBD, which is pretty amazing. This was actually formulated specifically for fibromyalgia and endometriosis. I always have trouble with that word. Both diseases cause quite a bit of pain. So this CBD topical was...
Like, is it muscle-related pain, if you know, or no? We can look it up.
Fibromyalgia is a nerve disease and
Fibromyalgia or something.
Yeah,
similar,
and endometriosis is a uterine disease. Yeah,
And it
that
helps
causes
with that,
pain.
too.
And I don't know exactly all of the details of that,
100%,
but this was designed to help with that. So topically going in and providing pain relief in that way is really great. And then, you know, if you're looking at something that is fat-based, it's going to do a hell of a lot better job. Our skin loves fat and oil. It doesn't
Yeah.
really love water. So a water-based moisturizer doesn't really do that job. So essential oils, cannabis, it's great for all those sorts of things. So I think that, you know, on the medicinal side of things, there's lots of way to kind of do that. You don't have to smoke. You can eat it. You can take a bath with it. You can put it onto your skin. You know, there's lots of ways to kind of do that.
And I've myself used this product at points, and let's say if I'm having a headache, I'd put it on both sides of my temple, and
Awesome.
Feels nice. You go to bed and
Yeah. Right? It's great. It's a great moisturizer. I use it on tattoos even. I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works all over. So
So can they make something similar with THC?
they can. So THC is in certain formulations and it's not in others. It depends on what you're doing.
But it can do 1,000 mg of THC. That
No.
would be crazy.
No. So I mean, your Health Canada rules will stop that from happening. Anyways, I mean, you can do, because it's milligrams, right? It's
Yeah.
milligrams per gram, so it's not a percentage in that way. So it's governed a little bit differently. And then there's also the conversions, right? Of like 1 gram of dried flower versus a concentrate, which is.
Yeah.
Did you hear recently they changed the packaging regulations and you do not need to put equivalent weight on anymore.
So no more DFEs?
Right.
Dried flower equivalent? Or what?
So, but now how does a cop know?
How
So like if
much
they
they're
stop
carrying,
me
yeah.
and they're like, how much is here? And I can't even.
28 grams of concentrate.
Right? 28 grams. Like, I mean, but if we're not even having dried equivalency on there, how does anyone do math? Like, they're not going to know it's 4.1 conversion. Like, that's never going to happen.
I also wonder if cops were doing maths before. They would just look
Right.
at the physical quantity and, you know, if it looks under 28 grams, you're good. And let's say if someone
But concentrates, to your point, like, they don't look like, it doesn't look like that at all. You know, I can have 40 grams of concentrate right here if it's shatter, you know, in between my hands. Like, it's so.
So
yeah.
why would they change that regulation? I wonder. I mean,
I don't know. Actually, I'm really not too sure why it was changed.
they came up with the transparent packaging now, which is cool.
Yeah.
Customers are loving it.
Yeah.
They've been able to make better decisions now because they can look at what they're buying into.
And that's one thing that's not a number now. There's a conversation you can have about the color,
Look at
what
the
the
big buds
bud
and
looks
what-
like.
yeah.
Yeah, so that at least gives you something to talk about otherwise at the store. And I know that a lot of folks don't want to have that conversation. I get that. But the ones that do, that's great. You can't say that nobody wants to talk about it, right?
That would be a fool thing to say if nobody cares about what they're smoking. A lot of people
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And then there's a majority just wants to get something quick, get
Yeah.
out of the store.
And that's always blown some of our minds. And I mean, you get just the age old, you know, do you go into the LC and be like, I don't care what it tastes like. I don't care what it smells like. Give me the strongest booze you have. I've never seen anybody say that ever, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what we get told every day, all day long. And I don't know why that is. I really don't. And I get, you know, for your bang for your buck. I understand that, right? You want
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just before legalization, it's not like you had that either. You know, it's not like your plug had way more information than we do. They didn't, right? They just had a bag and you smelt it and you said, yes, please. You know, so I don't know where that came from, but it's education is kind of the way out, I think, but
Yeah.
that takes time.
To your point, yeah, liquor LCs have been around for longer. They've been legal for longer. I think people have known enough about alcohol and compared to cannabis. And with cannabis, they're still getting used to all this legalization.
Totally.
Yeah.
My favorite thing to say is if somebody walks into your store and you're saying, "Hey, what are you in for today?"
Yeah.
The customer should reply by saying, "I have no idea. I don't even know what you have. You have things that have never existed in history before. You got something yesterday that no one's ever seen before. You now have 30%, 37, 38% non-infused flour. I mean, how can a customer know what they're looking for?" Right? So there needs to be a little bit more than that. And does every customer want to have that conversation? No.
No.
So when you start that conversation and they, blow you off, you just go whatever and you give them whatever they want. But at least if you try and start the conversation, now you find yourself having them a few
And you
times a
build
day.
trust as well.
Trust is a big piece,
yeah.
right? And that's to the point of new products all the time and not really knowing what it is. There's an element of trust from your side.
I think a lot of this lately we've been having this 30%, 35%, and a good contribution of that would be good genetics. How our growers have been able to what do you call it, crossbreed and all that, and slowly and gradually get rid of the plants with lower THC and keep evolving with the higher THC plants, and yeah,
Yeah. But where does it end?
that's the question.
Right?
Where does it end?
I mean, the next guy's going to come in with 38 and the next guy's going to come in with 40 because how else do they sell? And now you have like real good genetics. You have really solid weed out there that is maybe some of the best grown, maybe some of the best you'll smoke, but it's 26%. So you'll never even see it on a shelf because buyers won't even bring it in.
You'll only see it on the shelf because I'll tell you what.
Well, it'll
for
start
a retailer,
sitting,
yeah.
right? And I mean, then how do we stop that? That's education, right? That is going in and saying, listen, first of all, these numbers are inflated and they're marketing, so let's take them out of the conversation because we're not even dealing with reality here. We're dealing with what that company wants me to think, and that's just marketing. It's been that way since the 50s, especially. But that's kind of what it is. Regardless of my personal feelings on that, sometimes I do understand it.
You think education is the only way out?
I think so. Knowing that when you first start drinking, you go in and sure, when you're younger, maybe you go after the strong stuff. But when you get older, you appreciate, and this isn't everybody, of course, but you think of like Scotch drinkers, right? They get into it, they understand the malt, and there's like how it was grown and how it was stored and how it was aged and all those lovely things. I mean, that's a hash conversation. That's the same conversation. Wine, cheese, hash, these are all aging things. These are all chemical processes happening over time, right? So, I got lost. I don't know where I was going with that.
No, you were going in the direction of how
Education
can help people to understand and make better decisions if we take out the THC out of the context.
Sure.
Like the percentage itself. I've heard in LA or in California, they've already done it. They don't have percentage. Like when you walk into a cannabis
or no menu at all.
No menu at all.
Saw that in BC.
Yeah. And I think instead of the THC percentage, they should have jars. And it should name the strain name, and that should it. And you can take a peek at it and see how you feel. And
totally, yeah. But I mean, how do you do that now?
Yeah, with all this regulation.
And like, if I was to start, okay, I say this because I don't pay my mortgage with a retail store, so I can say this freely. But if I was to start a store, I'd want to do it without a menu. I'd want to do it so you have to engage us to do that. And I don't need you to come in and say, I'm looking for this chemovar that very specifically, like, I don't need that at all, dog. Just be like, are you smoking flower joints or like a vape today? Cool. Are you wanting like cushy, weed tasting? Are you wanting fruit? Or are you wanting like cookies and like baked goods? Great. Now I know what conversation we're having. Now I know what type of strains to recommend to you. So I'm not recommending a strain based off its highest THC. I'm recommending a strain based on what you want to taste because you have a choice. It's all going to get you high. So, I mean, you can enjoy the experience a different way along the way, right? So,
what you're saying sounds very good, Paul, on paper that a store shouldn't have a menu and a retailer should engage the customer in a conversation to understand his or her need. But think about it this way. I have a person working at a minimum wage, right? Mm-hmm. Or let's say $2 or $3 at max on top. he just wants the customer to leave the fuck out, you know? I mean,
For sure. And I get
come in, get his stuff, and go. He doesn't want to indulge into small talks and whatnot. So
Yeah, and I mean, frankly, that comes down to how you choose to run it, like who you choose to hire in the culture of your store. You know that, and I don't mean
100%.
that. You know, it just is what it is. And like most stores would never do that because then now they can't just have people come in and self-serve, right? And that's really what it's become. We don't sell, we serve. It's like going to McDonald's. You just look at a menu and you point, and then the guy gives it to you and he doesn't say a word to you. Them. I gendered. My apologies. So, you know, I just think that, you know, sales is if we're having a sales conversation, that is a very different thing. And then there's service. So differentiating between those two things, I think I hope makes my comment a little bit clearer because, you know,
you're right.
And I do, even within that, I understand that 80%, 70%, whatever, a number will not want to have that conversation with me. And and as soon as I see that, I will just give them whatever they want because I don't want to lose that customer. I understand
100%.
their dollar is important.
And you'll realize in first 10, 20 seconds that this customer wants to engage in a talk or not.
Yeah, read body language, right? Their whole body language will tell you everything. Are they looking at you? Are they smiling? You can have a conversation.
Or they just down,
exactly.
looking at the menu.
Don't even bother trying, right? So you know, I try to get away from just the standard what brings you in today to just be like, hey, what's going on? You buying weed for the weekend? What are you up to? At least I asked one question that wasn't immediately to business. And that for me is just a customer service piece.
And that is personal touch too, because if two stores are selling and one is just selling and the other one is serving, like you said, you'll see the difference gradually. The one that is selling will have more customers than just serving. Yeah.
And
I understand your point.
And that will travel down into dollars too, because you look at items per transaction and dollars per transaction. So if you have a great rapport with your customer and your customer is used to talking to you, then you're able to recommend something. You could say, hey, listen, I know you got this the last couple times. Do you got $2 extra today to just try something? We got it in new and it's pretty fire and I think you might like it. Right? You have that relationship. You can try that. Now you've made $2 extra, right? Yeah. Or you're saying, hey dog, like this is really cool. We got a new hash in. Do you want to mix it into your flour and try some infused? I see you buy a lot of infused products. You want to try doing it yourself? Like you have that ability to now start having a few conversations and directing the sales, right? You certainly don't want to be selling folks that they don't want. You're not telling them
you don't
lies.
Want to be pushy, yeah.
Exactly. But we can have conversations. We can sell. We can engage.
Yeah. A lot of it is, and now I'll deviate from cannabis a bit, but now I find that we are moving away from conversations. We are not having as many conversations with people. We go to gym, we do our thing and get out of there. And like with anything, we have stopped having conversations. I think conversations are the true form of communicating, and that's what makes us human in first place. So if you take out the communication, what are you left with? And the way our society is heading with no communication, I don't know where it goes from here. So
yeah, I mean, I agree. You know, I think if you look at evolution, humans' ability to become the dominant, brain power, but you know, really was working together. It was that ability to communicate and collaborate that allowed 100%. Cities to be built and all those crazy things to happen, right? So yeah, I mean, isolation is bad for humans. They're bad for mammals, period. You'll see almost all mammals, right, operate in packs. Very, very, you get wolves and things like that that'll sometimes hunt on their own and some cats. But, you know, overall, they're generally social, especially primates.
Yeah, then I wonder why isolation or privacy has been pushed so much and individualism, like you are an individual, you have to be separate then from...
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense to me.
Standing out, yeah, I suppose. I mean, I've always been a little bit of that. I've always kind of wanted to stand out a little bit most of my life.
We all do. We've all been guilty of that at some point. We all want to stand out. As a teenager, everything amplifies.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And at that point, we want to be the, coolest one out of the crowd, coolest one out of the pack. So.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's, I mean, I guess COVID again, right? It comes back to the Roman toilet, actually. When people stopped shitting together and they started, indoor plumbing has really changed a lot of the perception of like aloneness. So when indoor plumbing became shame started, and then the like community. I'm not saying I want to shit in a room with a bunch of people, but it definitely changed the idea of like, you know, of people coming together, and then you started doing certain things alone, and then just throughout time, and I think the polarization of our world
Even if
today.
you don't think about Roman toilet, think about Roman baths.
Right, yeah, Roman baths. You know.
So that was that would bring societies together and people would talk and
For sure. And then, you know, you got water cooler culture, right? People chatting and stuff at work, at lunch.
that
but
used
then,
to be a thing. Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Even
then
in schools.
COVID, right? The isolation got a hell of a lot more. And I don't know, I think that fear took over a lot too. You know, you fear and isolation. And I mean, that's a recipe for staying away from other folk, right?
And now you can control all the masses with whatever message.
Well,
you
yeah,
want
that
to.
too. Yeah, that's a good way of control.
Interesting. Let's jump back into
Let's
hash.
jump in, yeah.
Okay, so tell me one thing. I've seen this trend with my customers that I would have folks that don't care about anything, and then I would have folks that would be super into hash, especially like they really care about what they are getting for hash. And if you can put some light on hash. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. You know, I sell Jubilee hash, and they age all their hash. So if we're going back to the old world, we're talking like Morocco and Afghanistan and many, many, many places in the world. Hash has kind of always been there. It's thousands of year old traditions kind of go into making hash. And what we see kind of today is typically keef, actually. So until you age hash, it's not technically hash. So this says aged hash on it, which in theory is kind of redundant because it's hash, it's aged. But what you typically see in market, and I'm not going to trash talk other brands or anything like that, but what I have seen in production is that you'll source keef, trichome heads from a variety of different places, and then you take a bunch of different strains and blend them together, and you press it, right? Which is the kind of that Lebanese press. It's the cheapest, easiest way to kind of produce hash. Time is always kind of the enemy. So the reason you see like less sativas in market is because they take longer to grow and they're more difficult to grow. So, you know, less adapt growers struggle with them and their yield is lower and therefore
Profit
time.
margins lower.
Exactly. So, you know, you see that kind of on both sides. But with hash, we're aging this a minimum of 3 to 6 months. And that allows beautiful things to happen, like CBG, the mother of cannabinoids, turns into THC and CBD, right? It breaks down. Your THC will convert into CBN.
So if it ages and converts THC into CBN, eh?
Yeah, so these things kind of start having chemical conversions. You also have terpenes start changing and converting. So typically, historically, I believe about, 250 grams or something? It's like a giant ball. They call them olives. And they age the hash like that, and you let it sit for 3 to 6 months, and you end up with a product with a full host of cannabinoids and kind of all the tradition in there. Now, this one in particular is a temple ball, and that is something you can, you know, put into a rope or put it on top of a bowl, or it's very versatile in that way. So, yeah, I mean, hash is used to pop things off, or it can be used just to smoke all on its own. This particular hash has only 2 input strains, so they are very specifically choosing which inputs go into here. And if we were to have the microscope and zoom all the way in on that, what we would see would be a bunch of trichome heads pressed together. Because that's really what this is. It's heat and pressure pushing them together. So it's a non-solvent-based extraction. So hash comes from a bunch of different places, and there's different ways of doing it in each country. So as an example, this is Montreal-style aged hash, which is called that because the person who made it is not Moroccan, and we are not in Morocco. So he felt that it was cultural appropriation to call it Moroccan hash because it's not imported from Morocco. So he called it Montreal-style hash. And what happened with hash is that most of it came up into the Port of Montreal. So it would come from the other side of the world, right? From Morocco and Peru and all these places, and it would come into the Port of Montreal, and that was kind of the main port for the 80s and 90s for import of cannabis and hash. And I've heard a lot of folks say that the weed was kind of shitty back then, but the hash was fantastic. So, the weed was typically your 15 to 19%, right, back in the day. So, but the
This
hash,
might be 25-ish.
yeah, they can kind of crank up. Now, hash itself also, this comes in naturally at 35% THC, and that's because that's where the train stopped, if you will. They're not going out of their way to make that number higher. Nobody's doing anything to change it. This is what the chemistry resulted in through that traditional method, and therefore that is the end result of this product. So that is kind of looking at a product as a plant again. How does it behave without me forcing it to do something maybe that it doesn't want to do? Your Moroccan is more of a dry sift hash, and the texture and overall flavor of the hash will be a big determining factor. So obviously the inputs. So what are you using? What chemovar, chemovars, and keef have you used for inputs? And then
It's interesting.
dry sift is a little bit drier. You can stretch it out. A sticky hash or a more of an Afghan hash is going to have oil added to it. So that's what kind of gives it the sticky. It's dry sift mixed with hash oil. And then as an example, say an East Coast hash would be that same kind of method to make it, but you'd be using genetics from the Caribbean. So as opposed to pulling them from, mountainous regions where you get kind of like cushy and really earthy flavors, you're going to get like tropical flavors and stuff in hash. So very similar to, a sativa dominant, very fruity or very florally versus a dank kush bud, right?
Makes sense. Have you heard of this thing? We have it in India. Maybe this is something fascinating for you. It's called Milana cream.
Okay.
It comes from this particular region in India. Maybe he can pull that up and show you some pictures of it. It looks similar to hash. It's exported throughout the Europe. Europeans have a great desire for it, I'd say.
They've been doing it for a lot longer.
So, yeah, and a lot of tourists would come to this region. It's called Parvati Valley. And
Cool.
It's in the Himalayan foothills or somewhere, and would smoke this cream or whatnot, and it's derived from some sort of cannabis. I'm not sure how.
Yeah, I was just about to say, do you have any idea how it's made?
Maybe he can pull that up, and in the meantime, I'll take a quick leak, my friend.
Yeah.
But it's been, if you can, find the process how Milana cream is made, my friend. That'll be cool.
Cream. Yeah, I've never heard of it I guess
It never made to North America, so
Yeah.
it's a big thing in Indian subcontinent and then some parts of Europe and
Yeah,
Middle East.
that's
but,
cool. You can decarboxylize, right? Like decarb weed and turn it into butter, and then it's pretty easy to cook with from that point. So,
That's true, yeah.
a cream, you could definitely fold it in.
It's
You could do all
cold
sorts of
cream.
things.
I'm pretty sure it can't. It's not in.
It's not dairy?
It's not edible in any sense, or no. It's the name itself is like a strain name, Milana cream, and there's some process that goes. I'm not very.
Oh,
good with
okay. All right. I think I was being too literal. I had the actual cream in my head. Okay, yeah. I
Looks
see. It's like a
somewhat similar
hash.
to hash,
Yeah. So, is it done with the hand, like a chara, like where
Probably.
you're gonna, you see there the hand, how like that's just all the the trichomes and everything stuck onto her hand,
yeah.
and then you rub it together, and you can make these like finger hash joints, right? I think the word I'm looking for is chara, but I could be incorrect.
And then there's a
Ancient,
big
yeah,
demand
very
for
cool.
this. Just like Thai sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard that hash in other parts, like in Paris, slices are very popular. So
What is
actually,
that?
they come in like instead of a temple ball, it'll be like I don't know, like a little thing, and it opens up, and there's like a slice of hash. So I guess you would take like a big ball and you would cut, and deliver it in a slice. So I think that's something that's quite popular in other parts of the world.
And people don't realize that before this getting illegal and all that, becoming a Schedule A drug, it was widely accepted throughout the world. People have been using it for thousands of years, medicinally and whatnot. But and then the government kicks in and
right, and they would you'd find hash and stuff aging on roofs. And it was the sun and the oxygen that's doing it, right? That's providing the decarboxylation. That's providing all those, driving those chemical process. and they would take it and they'd mix it with some fruit and mix it maybe with some essential oil, and they'd feed it to folk that weren't feeling well or help them sleep, and they didn't know that the sun was converting cannabinoids into CBN, and that CBN was relaxing their system and helping them sleep. They didn't know that, but that's what was happening. So now it's kind of, I think that folks have known, especially in other parts of the world, have known the benefits and how this plant works for a long time. And now science is just kind of catching up and explaining, okay, well, this is the, chemical process. This is the synthesis that's happening, but you just knew the result of it. Now we can explain how it's happening. So
what do you think about magic mushrooms and psilocybin or psychedelics getting legalized?
I'm very pro. They're fantastic.
Yeah?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Would you like to share your experience?
Sure. Yeah. I'd love to talk about mushrooms. I think that like anything, intention is a big piece. Some folks will do mushrooms recreationally. I've kind of look at them a little bit more of a tool, if you will, to get to know yourself and the things going on around you. It's often talked about in removing the ego, right? And that's to say that you remove yourself. And somebody else is maybe in the driver's seat for a little bit. But I think that, if you look at the research that's been started in the 50s, maybe even before that, they started doing LSD and mushrooms and all these types of DMT, and they saw a huge amount of improvement in mood, and they saw all these benefits, but the war on drugs started, right, with Reagan, and that trashed everything, right?
And then there was no funding to this
right.
psychedelics either, right?
And they took most of their, from my understanding at least, they took a lot of their policy and stance from Mexico. So the Mexicans Mexico had been dealing with the cartels and with drugs for a lot longer. So when the U.S. was putting together their drug enforcement policies, they spoke to the president of Mexico and they got guidance on that. And everything that universities were doing in terms of research and all that was just shut down. And it was stored in a room for, 40, 50 years or whatever. And now
it's resurfacing, I would say.
Yeah. And the results are still the same. I mean, they say that even if you have a bad trip, so you do not enjoy your journey at all, the results in your brain and the changes in your brain are still positive. And the best way I've ever heard psychedelics described is the way I like to describe it, because I was told to me like this. You're on top of a mountain and you're skiing. And over time, people start following the same path, and it creates a groove. And then you find most folks, when you look now, a week later, you're going to find that most folks have gone into that groove. You're not going to find too many outside of it. That's like your brain. When your brain synapses make a connection, and you can actually see it now. They have videos of you learning a new thought, and you can see these two balls reach out and touch each other and then start strength. It's insane. I'm getting goosebumps. See? I get really, the brain stuff makes me excited. Where was I going with this?
So skiing, going
right. So you're going down the groove, and that's your brain. So once you start thinking of a thing, you tend to start going down that same way. Psychedelics make it snow.
So it resets.
It resets everything and allows your brain to explore a new way. It allows it to kind of reset all those paths, and it's not like you forget what you know. You integrate, and I mean, I think a lot of folks walk away. I'll just talk about me. I mean, I walked away with a sense that definitely, I think of deeper connection. You generally feel more connected to things.
How much you took?
I've done a few different ones. I mean, you start off I think I started off with 1 gram or something, and I've done up to 4 or 5 grams before. There's hero doses, which are kind of your 4 to 7 grams, which
there's no coming back.
Well, it's traveling space and time is how it's been described to me. To the most pure of psychedelic users would recommend laying in bed in a dark room. So no stimulus. Basically, you just ingest and then you
That's hard.
Travel.
Because from my experience, I've only one trip under my belt. So, and in my experience, when I would close my eyes, things would get more vivid.
Mm-hmm. And that's why. So you're basically trying to induce that as much as
But
possible.
it was I was trying to fight those things that I was saying, and yeah, that was the part where
Me
my
too.
yeah.
I did that.
And
it doesn't
they-
go well.
it
Fighting
doesn't
the
go well.
drugs is terrible. Yeah, it
and
makes
they
it
were
bad.
laughing at me.
I
Like,
think that's how a bad trip actually happens, is if you fight it.
I have this strong opinion about there's no such thing as a bad trip. Hear me out.
Yeah.
I don't think there's such thing as a bad trip. All it is something that you didn't want it to face, and it surfaces up.
And that can be it, right? And I've never had something where I've become like irrationally afraid of something during during the experience. So but yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think that most of the time that's the stuff that, and I think cannabis has been that for me too. It's helped me strip away some of those layers. I think it's helped me get more in touch with myself and the truth of maybe what's going on versus the things that I like to tell myself,
Yeah.
I've always kind of viewed, they've been great at that, I think.
I'm
And
trying to get this guy to
doesn't want to do it, eh?
do the mushroom. He'll vape.
Yeah.
He's vaping right now, but he won't
Yeah,
do
fair enough.
mushrooms.
Hey, it's not for everybody. And I mean, and I'm not saying this is you. I mean, like my mom is an example. I've talked to her about it, and I told her about the mountain and the snow, and I told her about feeling connected, and I've told her that I've seen, when you look at the sky, there's like a honeycomb there.
Yeah, everything
Right?
gets fractalized.
But it's connected. It's like there's like a giant web that connects everything, right? And you can see that, and therefore you kind of feel a part of it. That concept scared the shit out of my mother. She was just like, hard pass, no. And her
then
she's so afraid of losing control. Sorry, mom. She just like,
I think we get control freaks as we grow older, and
Right.
we don't take this path. Your analogy is very cool when you say that. Think of it as a glacier with snow on it, and then you make paths, and
Yeah.
then more skiers go through it, makes more paths, and then eventually those paths become synapses, and
it's hard to break, right? Those
Yeah,
patterns. It's
100%.
difficult,
I
and
tell-
you don't even see them half the time.
no, it's fascinating how humans are so flawed in different ways, and we're still ruling this world.
Right? Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Like, are we qualified to be doing this?
Yeah.
That's a question. And I mean, it's intelligence, right? I guess the ability to be aware of that fact that allows us to perhaps
Maybe
lord
it's
over
a-
this land.
Maybe it's intelligence, it's our intellect that allows us to use tools around us. I don't know. I'm still on the path to figure out how we got here.
Right?
Yeah,
It's a fun path, though.
Yeah, but it's interesting how mushrooms will, deviate you into this whole new realm where you feel all of a sudden connected with everything around you. So, in my experience, I was fighting these things like I'm telling you, and they were laughing at me saying, "This guy just showed up for the first time."
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fascinating.
I had an experience like that too. Like laying on my couch, and I wanted to cry. I had stuff that I needed to let out, and I didn't want to do it, So I was like fighting it, and then eventually I'd be like, fine, like, just to release some emotion. Like, that's not right. I shouldn't be like that. So I think that, it's definitely helped me work through some of that, and, without going into kind of the whole, lack of emotion in males thing and how we perpetuate that in our society. Without getting into all that, I think that, it's accessing those things are important, because that kind of, in my opinion, anger and hurt, it turns into disease. That's cancer waiting to happen. I think. I don't know. I think that's poison inside of you, and that, got to get it out. And if mushrooms are how you're able to get yourself out of the way enough to do that, then you should do that.
Interesting.
People say they call to them. When it's time, the mushrooms call to you.
That is true.
Yeah.
I would attest to that, because I bought this 5 grams of mushroom, and they were sitting right next to my bed desk, and I would see them all every night, every day, and they were sitting there for 2-3 months before I got the courage and I was in the right headspace to indulge myself. And I think people should pay more attention to that. If you're struggling with things in your life already, try not to do it. Get yourself in a better position first, and then maybe.
It's set and setting, I think psychedelics, it's your intention. What are you going into? What are you kind of looking to get out of it? And where are you? So you're set and you're setting, right? those are important to be able to facilitate what it is you're trying to do. And if you're having fun with your friends, sure, that's something you can do too. Now, I can't do mushrooms and go hang out with my friends because I get very introspective and I want to just sit in a room and think about some stuff and get into my life. You know, I want to get into me. So it's definitely not a great drug for that. Now, LSD, on the other hand, can do the same things as mushrooms, and I find it a little bit more social. Now, it's unnatural and it's a chemical, and kind of out of the grown world, and it's, yeah. Maybe.
So, what's the onset of this LSD when you take it? How long it takes and to kick in and all that?
Everybody's a little different, but with mushrooms, I mean, typically, I think 2 hours is going to be the full hit, but you'll probably start feeling it within like 30 to 45 minutes.
And LSD?
About the same, maybe a little faster. Generally, that uptake's relatively the same. Now, LSD should be faster because you are sublingually, you're absorbing it through your tongue. And that is a lot faster than your digestive tract, right? So the onset would be, they're definitely different drugs. I have more experience with one than the other. So, but I just say, like, in terms of psychedelics, in terms of exploring yourself, they're both good at that.
And the effects of LSD different than mushrooms?
Yes and no. There's visuals in both. But again, you know, the genetic of mushroom really changes things. So as an example, penis envy is known for that particular, is strain the right word? I mean, when we're talking mushrooms, it's mold and fungus. So I think we can use strain here. This is where strain belongs.
Yeah.
So that strain of mushroom, penis envy, is known for being highly psychedelic. So lots of visuals. Some of them, there's others called golden teacher, which folks say that can be less of a visual and more of a brain experience or a spiritual experience. So I think that much like cannabis, you know, what you're trying to achieve with it determines on what you should be ingesting, I guess, and purchasing. So again, it's back to an education and purchasing place.
Yeah, I sometimes wonder how will they regulate if they go this path
Right.
and legalize this, how will they regulate who can use it, how much they can use it. Just with the
All right.
cannabis, we had 10 mgs of THC in edibles, and
It would be low again, I would imagine, right? Because you'd be
you don't want to bombard society with
high doses.
mushrooms,
Yeah, well, exactly. And I mean, you can get yourself into trouble with high doses of cannabis too. I mean, I've greened myself out. You ever greened yourself out real bad?
I haven't done
No,
that.
I have. In 2020,
What do you call it? Green out?
green out. Yeah. So basically you overload your system and you can puke and pass out and do some fun things. Yeah, like I greened myself out when THCA diamonds first came into the market. THCA is just the precursor, right? It's the acidic precursor to THC. So it actually sits here. It's actually in THCA. So once we light it on fire, when we decarb it, it chemically converts to THC. So when they started putting out THCA diamonds, they were like 99.9%. Once you light it on fire, you lose 12.3 bioavailability, which means it's 88.7%. So I took those and I put it on top of a bowl of super lemon haze that I got from a buddy in BC and hit that shit. And my God, I spent the next half hour basically having a panic attack. Like sweating bullets, panic running up my spine, and I just had to do dishes and talk to myself. Like, you're okay, buddy. It's okay.
pass.
You'll be fine in 20 minutes. Everything's fine in 20 minutes. And then I had to go take a shower, a cold shower, which is a great way to help out if you're ever greening out. Take a cold shower, smell an orange. Those are things that can help.
And they say, I've heard this, citrus helps you calm you down.
Citrus, yeah. And CBD.
CBD too?
Yeah, CBD will help take the
Even
edge
when
off.
you're high?
Yes. Yeah, because then it's just jumping into the mix, right? Like THC and CBD work together in that CBD will, I believe, change the shape of a CB1 receptor to make it so that THC is more receptive to it. But then CBD will take some of the edge off of the potency of THC. So they kind of have opposite effects on one another.
And can you tell me if it's a myth? They say if you are high and you eat chocolates or something sweet, the high gets stronger.
I think that that's, again, playing with terpenes. You're introducing something else into your entourage effect, right? Like chocolate has what's the word? I don't know. Chocolate has something in it that does that chemically to your body, and I'm escaping the word right now. It's like wine and tannins and all that stuff, right?
Aphrodisiac?
Yeah,
No?
it's going to be something, right? So there will be a chemical, like what's in the chocolate will start acting on your system. Cannabis is already in the mix, so they'll start interacting together.
So it'll make you feel a little higher, but
Yeah,
it's
so
just-
like
okay.
higher is maybe not the right word, but there'll be
Amplify the-
an effect.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
and as to what that is, who knows? You know,
That makes
that's
sense.
very difficult to predict. And if you get 1,000 people and get them all to try it, then you'll get an idea of what that looks like. But I think that it's safest for me to say, at least. I don't know. Everybody's different.
That's true.
Yeah.
Listen, man, this has been a great conversation. It was fun talking about all the botanical terps, and yeah, we went around the world, came back.
Yeah, I did.
Cannabis. So
Yeah.
lovely. Thanks for doing this. And
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate it.
If you can tell your goal with Lowlands and how you want to expand, this is your time.
For sure, yeah. I think that I'd like to continue to work in education. I think I'd like to continue to kind of help guide folks to better buying decisions. Let's call it that.
Yeah.
Help guide folks to better buying decisions, because this industry isn't bulletproof. And if we just drive it into the ground, it might not be here in 5 years. All that will be left will be, and this is maybe a little bit inevitable. I'm going to end on a real downer, apparently. Just as more corporate stores come in, as more like big corporate comes in, we get less feeling, we get less quality, we get less attention, right? So I think education will help us bridge that gap, and it will lead us to an informed customer like we see in the liquor. They've developed that over time. You can walk into a liquor store and say, hey, what do you want? And they know what's on the shelf. You know what's there. You can answer that confidently without having to be told something. So, I provide service to brands and help them get a footprint into the province. And I do that through fun toys and education.
This is great, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.